stayed at Mays for probably all of 6th grade, and then Southwood Middle School was the next magnet high school that I attended, and that's where I started to really get formal dance training in ballet, modern, jazz. Then moved to, I'm telling you all the schools, then moved to Coral Reef Senior High after I finished at Southwood. One of the teachers from Southwood was a teacher at Coral Reef, so I sort of followed her. That was the first year that Coral Reef Senior High School opened. And there I got more formal training there, and I met a woman by the name of Angel Fraser Logan, who is the director of a small dance studio in South Miami in the Pinecrest Falls area. The dance studio is called the Dance Empire of Miami. She had just opened her studio that year and was recruiting, young dancers to come and sort of fill up her studio. She needed students, and so she came and gave a master class at Coral Reef Senior High. She saw me, she saw that I had talent, and she said, "I want to train you, come to my dance school." Me, living all the way in South Miami, having no car and no way to get there. By this time, I think my guardians knew that I was dancing, but they didn't really know to what degree I was dancing. They didn't know how much I loved it, and they didn't know the sacrifices that would have to be made in order for me to actually do it. So Angel agreed to drive me from dance home every day after rehearsals. So I know that that was a big issue for my grandmother, who I was living with at the time. So that was sort of like, the drive was sort of like half the work was done in terms of my guardians being okay with me taking on these new responsibilities. So there was a time where I was going to Coral Reef High School, and after school I would go to train at the Dance Empire. So I would finish a full day of regular academic school and dance training at around 10 p.m. at night. So I did that for about 2 years at Coral Reef, and then my junior year, Angel told me that I should go to New World School of the Arts. She thought it would be the best place for me to train within the school system here in Dade County. So I just took her word for it. I knew nothing about New World, and asked my grandma. Of course, she was not okay with it because it was even further away than Angel's studio at the Dance Empire. But Angel eventually came to the house, spoke to my grandmother, and convinced her to let me go there. So I started New World School of the Arts my junior year of high school. I did 2 years there. I met a very important person there. His name is Peter London. He was my modern dance, what do you call these people? Professor there at New World. He was also a professional dancer with the Martha Graham Dance Company back in his time, and he saw that I had potential. He knew Sylvia Waters, who was the director of Ailey 2, which is the junior company. And he said, "I know a friend who would be interested in a dancer like you if I could, sort of guarantee you, not necessarily a space in the company, but a chance to meet with her so that she can look at you to see if you're good enough to be in the junior company. Would you go to New York?" And at this time, it was my senior year of high school. I had no other plans, so I said, sure, not really knowing what Ailey was. I mean, I had seen a performance that I was completely moved by and was crying and everything, but it was sort of like, after that performance, I sort of let that moment sort of pass, and I went along dealing with my life as it was. So I said, sure, yeah, I'll go to New York. So in order to be in Ailey 2, you have to be enrolled in the Ailey school. So I went there. The grandma was okay with it eventually. Did Ailey 2 I did the Ailey school, for about 2 weeks. And then I met Sylvia Waters within those 2 weeks, and she hired me to be in Ailey 2. I stayed in Ailey 2 for 1 year. It's a 2-year pre-professional program. I was there for 1 year. After that, I auditioned for the first company under the direction of Judith Jamison. And I was there for about 2 years, and then I was antsy. I mean, I got in when I was 18 years old, so I was like, I love this dance thing. New York is a little bit crazy, but I know that there's a lot of stuff here in the city that I would love to do. At the time, I was really interested in fashion design, and I was interested in doing more contemporary work, more sort of like avant-garde work. Like, I just really wanted to move and explore my body. And so after 2 years in the company, I told her, I was like, I'm leaving. And of course she was like, jaw on the floor. What do you mean you're leaving? Where are you going to go? And so I left. I came back to Miami. I did some work at the Dance Empire, which is now a place that I go to. I've been going every time I get a break. I go back to Dance Empire and I work with the kids there. So I took a little break after I left the company, came here, worked a little bit, rest up, and I put together a portfolio to get into fashion design school at FIT in New York. That went through. I went to fashion design school, and I remember like the first week, I knew it wasn't right. I just knew it wasn't right. There was something about sitting in a lecture on how to make a fabulous pocket, as the teacher would say, or like pleats, or how to drape dresses. I mean, it was not what I saw in Vogue. It was not what I saw on the fashion channels on TV. And I guess I didn't realize that there are stepping stones that it takes to being great at anything. And at that point, that was the first step, into being a fashion designer. And I was really young, and I was like, this is the really sedentary type of existence. And so I wanted to dance, and I was sort of paying for school out of pocket for the most part at that time. I needed money. So I started dancing sort of part-time with a company called Complexions Contemporary Ballet. The two directors there were former Ailey dancers that started this company back in the 80s. So I would do that. I would go to rehearsals with them, and they would let me get out early enough so that I could make my fashion design classes. So I would get to class after a full day of rehearsal, and I would just fall asleep on those lectures about, pockets and pleats and stuff. And then eventually dance just took over. I think it was, I just loved it more eventually. So finished out the season with Complexions, quit school. Complexions was over. I think I did one season with them. It was great, but for some reason I knew I had to go back to Ailey. And so I called up Judith Jamison, and she was happy to have me back. I stayed for 3 years. And when I came back in those 3 years, I think I learned a lot in being away. I sort of grew up a little bit. Whatever I had in my system to get out, I sort of got it out. And so I came back, and they just really put me to work, to say the least. And so I burnt out. I burnt out after 3 years, and I sort of hated. I mean, it's a really strong word to use, but I didn't like what I was doing anymore. I felt like I was just some like tool, being like some kind of like puppet, and I felt like I'd been danced out, and I didn't really have like a voice of my own. I had like nothing that was actually, I didn't have a purpose. I was just going about the motions, and that didn't feel right to me, because the way that I was trained by Angel back at Dance Empire was that you always have to dance from your heart. You always have to dance from a place that is deeper than just your cellular, just like your limbs and bones.